Looking for that forever home to get out of shitholes like Green Hill? Try Zillow. Looking for a great dining experience where you don't have to eat shit? Try Olive Garden. Looking for the perfect podcast experience? Then go to patreon.com/Wissescast Productions. For less than the cost of reanimating your lead character in the span of 3 months, you can support our show, bonus episodes, early access, and so much more. Patreon.com/Wissescast Productions. Because when you're here, you'll be our next sacrifice to Jim Carrey. Enjoy the show.
Follow me, set me free, trust me, and we will escape from the city. Welcome to the After Credits Cast, the only film podcast that is bringing you film reviews at the speed of sound. You hear that? That's the speed of sound going into your ears right now. I'm your host, Aaron the Hedgehog, and with me today, I've got Ryan the Echidna.
I can fly, and I've got spikes in my knuckles. Let's go.
And I hear you don't chuckle.
So cool. I don't chuckle. I'm very serious.
You can follow us on our bullshit on various platforms of choice, including Patreon, YouTube, Peepa, Apple Podcasts. I'm getting better at this. Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Podcast Addict. If you Google us, you will find us. We're also on social media, Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook. Ryan, if they wanted to email us instead of leaving comments down below, where can they email us at?
They can reach us at our email at rolling around at the speed of sound. Excuse me. Sorry. That's evacstation@gmail.com for the time being.
Now, for those who are just joining us, let me give you a little hint. Ryan and I, we're Sonic kids. He's a boy. So
yep. This
is going to be a very interesting episode. I'm not sure where we're going to land on it, but I think we're going to have fun regardless. This week, we press start at the supersonic speeds for 2020's Sonic the Hedgehog, our first new release of 2020 for the show. Yay. Directed by Jeff Fowler and written by Van Robenchow, Evan Susser, Josh Miller, Patrick Casey, and Oren Uziel. Quite possibly...
I'm sorry. I'm just realizing that we had a fucking Chow writing this movie.
I know, right? Quite possibly the most overwritten cartoon rodent in history. Mickey Mouse. The film made money. I actually didn't get a chance to write those numbers down. I remember now. The headline said 70 million opening weekend. Fucking 70 million opening weekend, Ryan.
That's some good shit. That's good shit.
For a frame of reference, Harley Quinn opened a week before at only 33 million.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed by that, and we'll talk about that more in a Harley Quinn podcast because
we will talk about that in depth on our Females in Film podcast.
Yep. Coming next season, Females in... Wait, actually, no, it's after Spider-Man. Coming after Spider-Man, Females in Film. Check it out. This cast includes Neil McDonough, Tika Sumpter, James Marsden, Cyclops, Ben Schwartz, and someone call the doctor because it's Jim Carrey.
Oh, God, I love him.
I've got thoughts about Jim Carrey, but we'll get into that. I also want to take a moment to commemorate the visual effects team who worked on this, worked longer hours to help remake this film into something passable. Excellent work by the Vancouver-based Moving Picture Company. For all of you who are out of work now, we wish you the best and wish you could be enjoying the benefits of this film right now. So let's lighten the mood with some fun facts.
Definitely. We will get to the fun facts. I just also want to throw my props in there because after seeing the movie and realizing just how much fucking work it would have taken to redesign Sonic, y'all deserve a round of applause. Seriously,
it's a real bummer.
That's great shit.
It's a real bummer that studio got shut down after they worked on this one though.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I want to tip my hats to you guys because damn, that was good. I had already made the vow, at least to me personally, that if they were going to go through the work of actually redesigning the main character, then I had to see it. I have to at least give this a shot, and you guys did it. Well done. Now, again, fun facts. Here we go. What attracted Jim Carrey to this project more than anything else was his daughter, being a big fan of Sonic the Hedgehog games growing up. She was also a Sega kid, and I love it. Yes. Now, next up, in an action scene where Sonic outruns a barrage of missiles, he uses a pair of them as drumsticks to play a catchy tune. If the tune in question sounds familiar, that's because Sonic is playing the level complete music featured in so many of the games. I love... That's how you do an Easter egg, guys. That's it. It's just gotta be something small, and the people that don't know are be like, oh, that's a fun tune. And the people who do know are like, ooh, I got it. That's it. Anyway, got too excited for that. The creatures who attack Sonic and Longclaw in this scene are wearing masks and headdress. If you look closely, you can see that they're echidnas. The red fur, the hanging hair, the spiked knuckles. Dead giveaway.
I caught that right away, and I'm like, okay, I appreciate this reference. This is good.
That was real good stuff. And when we get to Sonic 3, this is gonna be great. Next up, when
look
Sonic
at Ryan greenlighting 2 sequels.
Shh, we'll get there. Last up, when Sonic looks at his map of the worlds he can use to jump to, the Saturn logo can be seen. The next world on Sonic's list is a place he calls Mushroom World. This could be a nod to Mushroom Hill Zone from Sonic Knuckles. However, given how open Sonic is about his hatred of mushrooms, this could also be a diss against his mushroom-loving 90s Nintendo nemesis, Super Mario.
Either way sounds plausible. I will say they say the words Mushroom Planet or Mushroom World way too goddamn much, though.
They do. Oh, mushrooms! Oh God, I hate mushrooms.
Let's get some initial thoughts out of the way. I went into this one with low expectations. I mean, Ryan, we've seen all these video game movies this season. I know this is going to come out in the middle of it all, but we saw the whole season before we saw this one. We've seen a lot of trash. Let's be real. A lot of stuff that definitely could have been better.
Yeah.
And reviews have been all over the place for this one. Like, I can honestly step into a room and half the room will be one side, half will be the other side. But I came out genuinely pretty on board with it, and I'm actually kind of excited to see a sequel that can punch things up a little bit more.
Yeah, that's fair. I very much enjoyed the movie. I wasn't going in looking for cinematic masterpieces. But it does some. The humor in it is a lot of fun. James Marsden is actually a much more funny person than I thought he was, which is really cool. I think this is the first thing I've actually seen him in since X-Men, so that's my fault. But
I saw him in a chick flick, and I was very disappointed.
Well, I enjoyed him in this one. Jim Carrey is just a delight. So overall, I had a lot of fun with it, and I will be very interested to see where the sequel goes as well. They already have the stinger in there, and it's good stuff. Like if they can spice it up, then they may have the stuff to make a trilogy out of it. I think this is a good start.
Indeed. Let's begin with the synopsis. I punched it up just before the podcast, so there might be some errors, but I do think it's a better version of what I had. It's that last minute 3-month change we had to do. Anyway, here we go. An illegal alien has moved into the small town of Green Hill, Montana, which is only a few miles north of Silent Hill. When this menace towards society unleashes an EMP-style burst of energy, it wipes out power to the Pacific Northwest. Being Trump's America, of course, only one hero can eliminate this threat, or at least deport it back to its shithole dimension. Dr. Ivo Robotnik.
Oh, no.
Robotnik arrives in Montana and is jerked around by the locals until he comes across a blue humanoid creature which claims to be a hedgehog. Sorry, but if that's a hedgehog, I'm Jesus. The hedgehog and his terrorist friend Cyclops escape. And while the blue creature has super speed, it stubbornly refuses to use it, all the easier for Dr. Robotnik, or so it would seem. Let's see for a minute. He gives them chase to the city of San Francisco, where they are attempting to get a bag of reins. Along the way, Robotnik unleashes an attack squad of Russian nesting robots. It doesn't quite work out, but it's fine. Everyone meets up at the Transamerica Tower, just as the Hedgehog says his seemingly tearful goodbye to his humanoid compatriots. Robotnik arrives to capture the creature like a Pokemon of sorts, but he needs to damage it first. Before he can, the blue creature pushes his human friends off the tower. I knew it! Illegal alien, menace to society, you can't trust him. Fighting happens. Robotnik manages to break into the Speed Force-like thing that the blue creature does to show the audience how fast he's going. They find themselves back in Montana because it's much cheaper to shoot a finale on location there. Robotnik has almost defeated the interloper when Cyclops uses not his eye laser powers, but the power of friendship. Ripping off my Japanese anime, this gives power to the blue creature, allowing him to go Super Saiyan, I guess, or some shit. He defeats Robotnik and sends him flying through one of those rain portals to a mushroom world we've heard mentioned no less than 7 billion times now. Almost enough to justify making a drinking game out of it. We end with more product placement and 2 sequel hooks. Robotnik vows revenge from his aforementioned mushroom world, and a weird fox monster arrives on the Earth looking for the blue hedgehog demon. Why? I guess you'll have to tune in to find out.
Bravo, sir. Bravo.
I hate bringing Trump up in these, but when I have the fodder to do it, I kind of have to take the low blow. Just
you gotta. You gotta.
As with every episode of this season, minus our bonus episode because it's a little different, Ryan, what is your history with the Sonic series?
Man. My first video game console was a Sega Genesis. And my first game was Sonic and Knuckles.
Damn.
Golly. This was home for me. Honestly, this was like coming home for me. This was 6-year-old Ryan just giggling with joy at every turn. Although I am disappointed that they didn't start off with the Sega noise to introduce them. But that's okay. You can't have everything you want. Still, this one is near and dear to my heart. I've played a lot of Sonic games. My favorite standing is Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on the GameCube, where we got to have the likes of Shadow the Hedgehog and Rouge the Bat, and you got to explore Pumpkin Hill with the baddest song ever. I could have that song play on repeat for 10 hours straight. It'll be fine. But yeah, no, I love this series. It's near and dear to me.
So my history is a little different. My first game was Pokemon, which we already discussed. But I played a 2D Sonic game, I can't tell you which one, at a cousin's house one time when I was getting babysat. And she had her friend over, and so he was playing with me, and he crushed me. I was a kid, I had no idea what buttons to push or what I was doing, no one explained it to me, and so I did not have a fun time. Fast forward to 2011, 2012 maybe? No, wait, not 12 or 11. 2001 or 2002. I don't remember exactly when I picked it up. But I got a GameCube to play Smash Bros. Because I been playing Pokemon, and I want to play Smash Bros. Where Pikachu can beat at Mario, because it's fun. And on the shelf of games I saw available for this console, I saw Sonic Adventure 2. And I thought to myself, I'm familiar with this character because I've seen the cartoon show. Because I actually did watch the cartoon show as a kid. So I'm familiar with it. I'm like, I didn't know they had games for him. So I picked it up and tried it out, and I immediately fell in love with this game. I love the high-speed, goofy antics you got. I just love the cornball kitty story you have with some of the more overly serious, but at the same time kind of still weird story beats to it. And I just love the characters. I mean, like, even if they don't all work on all cylinders, like, Design-wise, they're all pretty fun, and character-wise, they all got their good moments, especially Robotnik, who's always been one of my favorites. I just love the big mustache. It just amuses me. If I had to say a favorite game in the series, that's a tough one, because Adventure 2 is definitely what I would say is where I started. It's got a soft spot for me. But I think it might be either Colors or Generations, where they really polish up the 3D gameplay mechanics to a fucking mere shine. That'd probably be where I would land. But I am playing Mania right now, and I'm digging it, so I might switch to that at some point. I also really like talking about 2006. I know it's a bad game. I know that I shouldn't talk about it more than it is being talked about. But it's a good case study for where good ideas go wrong, and just a lot of overly ambitious people making a bad Sonic game. And
yeah,
I loved playing it because I like playing broken games, whereas Sonic Boom is a very boring game. It still has its glitches, but it's just very boring to play through. At least in Sonic 2006, you can kind of have a good laugh at some of the bullshit that goes on in there. Ryan, who's your favorite character in Sonic canon? If I may ask, is it still Canucks?
Oh man, Canucks is oh man, he's so good. I want to say it's a toss up between Knuckles and Shadow, because Chaos Control was the shit when I first saw it. It was a darker, edgier Sonic who could control time. I was like, what the fuck is happening? That's so cool. So yeah, I would say it's a toss up between those two.
For me, I think overall it's gonna be Robotnik. I just love the design. I love the goofiness. I love goofy villains. Like, I love Dr. Evil. I love Team Rocket. I love this. It all works. But as the other character I like to pick on as a good character is, incidentally, from 2006. It's Silver the Hedgehog. I like his design. I like some of the cool ideas they have for him. I just wish he had premiered in a better game.
Yep.
And that's our brief bit of Sonic lore background history for you there, folks. Ryan, what are your thoughts on the Sonic redesign for this film, and the amount of control fans seem to have been given over the fate of this movie?
I think it speaks to the respect that the studio has over fans' reaction. And I think it's really nice, particularly for a game that's leaning so heavily on nostalgia. Like, because while the movie is designed and written for kids, for young audiences, it's the parents that are going to have to take them to see the show. It's the parents that are going to have to shell out the money and go with them in order to see the movie. And so, like, all kids' movies has to have that in the background. And so if the adult appeal of your kids' movie is entirely nostalgia-based, you can't fuck up the adaptation of the beloved character in question. I think the overwhelming backlash to it is one thing, because people are going to hate, or like they're going to tell you what to think about it. But the fact that they were willing to put so much more money into it to redesign it so that people like it, I think that's really good on the studio's part, because that's extra money that they have no idea if they're going to see a return on. But the studio was willing to shell out that much money to get the redesign done, and I appreciate that. I do. So when we heard that they were delaying it and they were going to revamp the character design, that was when I promised that I was going to go see the movie. Because if they were going to put that much more money into it, I at least owe it to them to go see it. I might not like it, but I at least have to go see it, because they respected our opinion that much.
I'm of two minds, and I think I fall on the side that is uncomfortable with the idea. And it's not that I hate the redesign. I think the redesign is good, but the problem I have is that the redesign should have been the first design.
Yes.
And I don't know where the decision came from. Based on everything I've read, it sounds like it was an executive decision, and that the design team actually had something better than what they first showed us. And I guess it just goes to show, again, that executives at studios tend to not have good ideas quite often. And they should just learn to respect and trust their design teams when they're making something the first time. That being said, the concern I've seen people raise is, what if this sort of reaction happened, and has happened actually, to films when it comes to casting of certain characters, and the studios listened to them? What if we had listened and we didn't get Heath Ledger's Joker? What if we had listened and not gotten Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man? Now, I get that's like a slippery slope argument, but there is some concern there. If this sort of fan reaction does drive studios to rethink decisions like this, how far would some of these studios like Sony take it, for example?
Okay. Interesting point. I think... I don't know. Okay, so I think there's a fine line between... How am I trying to phrase this? Like, so people's initial reaction to, like, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man or Heath Ledger as the Joker, that's ultimately it's an assumption based on how they thought they would perform in the movie. And you can't get that based off of a 2-minute, 3-minute trailer where you see them for maybe 40 seconds of the trailer. You can't base that off of that. And that's a subjective view on an actor's performance. That you just kind of have to wait and see what you get. But when it comes to the straight up design of a character, just like, you can objectively say that's good or bad, I think, personally. Like, particularly if you're doing it if the character that you're doing in question is all computer generated, and it's such a beloved character where there's so much Sonic art and design out there that, like, pays homage to the original design. Like, I think this is just an instance where they fucked up and then they corrected it, as opposed to they bent to public opinion. Like, they did bend, but I don't feel it was more public opinion as opposed to y'all just didn't do it right. You gotta do it right. This is like when you release Cats and then release a different version of Cats 2 weeks later that has updated graphics. Should those updated graphics have been in the first cut? 100%. Sure, absolutely. That should have been there, but that's them trying to correct an objectively poor choice, like an objectively bad design. And I think there's a difference between fixing a mistake and having an opinion on whether or not an actor will be good.
And that's fair. The only counterpoint I really have is, it seems unfair to the design team to have to redo this expensive design because the studio executive made a bad call, and they have to be the ones that work the crunch time hours for it.
It sucks. It does suck. It really does. But you have to put the blame where the blame is due at that point. Like, especially if it is if what you're saying is true, and that does, like, the design team initially had either this or something better planned originally, and the execs were the one that made that call, then 100% you have to put the fault on the execs. And while the execs are going to eat the cost of the reshoots, I'm also, like, it's also nice that they were willing to do that. Like, it's nice that they didn't just say, oh, well, fuck it, we're going to put out a shitty movie. Like they actually cared about the feedback. You know, like it sucks that the design team had to put in extra crunch time hours to do it the way they originally wanted to do it, but I also thank them for doing it. You know what I mean?
Right, right. I don't know. Like I agree with you, but I just think that there's a lot of
I hear where you're coming from though.
there's
It's definitely a slippery slope if they record so much shit and enough public pressure is just like, we don't think a black person should have that part. Do they do reshoots with a white person? They changed Sonic. Why can't we change this guy? You're right. That's a very slippery slope, and that's definitely something to be leery of. But in this case, I don't think it's bad.
I get you coming from, and like I said, it just leaves a very weird taste in my mouth, and I hate to see this be taken to another level. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what time or how this goes in time. Maybe this will be a one-off incident. Maybe more will happen. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. I hear you. Good question.
Follow-up question. Do you think the redesign impacted Tails or Knuckles at all? Or I guess the Echidnas? And if so, how do you think they look before the changes were made?
I don't think it impacted the echidnas because while you can catch the small details, I think the fact that they were all wearing the masks and the ponchos and shit, it's a deliberate, like it's deliberate enough to kind of mask where they eventually want to go. So when you get Knuckles, so when eventually in movie 3 or movie 2, whichever, one of the echidnas, like the best echidna warrior, pops out of a ring portal, and he takes off his headdress and his garb, and it's Knuckles. Everybody's gonna be like, "Oh shit!" So I don't think the redesign.
Chuckle.
Yeah, he's not Chuckle. So I don't think the redesign impacted him, or impacted the echidnas, because that's a deliberate obfuscation, I believe.
Okay.
I definitely think it impacted Tails though, because
I would love to see what he looked like
made
before.
Tails. I imagine it was some modern quote unquote realistic version that they were trying to pull some bullshit with Sonic. It would have been in that similar vein, and it wouldn't have looked good. I was much happier when I saw the 2020 cutting edge computer generated version of the Tails we know and love. Like, yes, that is what I wanted to see, and I was very happy when I saw him.
A lot of Sonic lore was tossed aside for this film, understandably so. Do you think it was to the film's benefit, or do you think the film loses a little something when that lore is altered in such a way?
So this is, man, all right, follow me here. This is in a similar
Set me free.
thought. Yes, trust me. We'll escape from the city. I feel kind of the opposite side of the coin to Star Wars and the decision to trash the EU.
Okay.
Because while there's a lot of EU lore that I know and love, and I spent so much time into it, the argument was that there are a lot of people who don't know the EU, and they were trying to they're trying to create something new that appeals to a wide audience, and their compromise was that they were going to take bits of the EU and use it to make something new. I was pissed about that with the EU, but I saw the wisdom in where they were going with it. It was not adequately executed, but that's a different conversation. I appreciated the wisdom of the approach. I think
check out our Rise of Skywalker podcast.
Where, yeah, please do. We talk a lot about that. I think it's a similar train of thought here, where there's a lot of Sonic lore. I don't know half of it. You are the resident Sonic master, like honestly. I don't know a whole bunch of the lore, but I know, but the idea of taking a story that's like 25 years old or more than 25 years old, and bringing it back for kids now, I think it's okay to piecemeal a new story using the seeds of that previous lore to tell something new and something current that people will be into now.
I get what you're saying, and I think to an extent I'm okay with some of the lore being shoved aside, because if you go from the comics to cartoons to video games, all three different sources, all three completely different lore backgrounds to go on, it gets convoluted, without question.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you go all the way back to, I think it's Ken Penderson, I think is who it was, who did like the first like fucking 10 or 15 years of Sonic comics, because his shit got fucking weird. That said, to me, it's kind of similar to Transformers in that when I go to see a Sonic movie or when I go to see a Transformers movie, I'm there for Sonic. I am there for the Transformers. I want to see them do the things. And here we're getting a bunch of people on top of that who are not at all part of Sonic's lore or story or games or any of it. And it's not like it's a disappointment, but it's definitely one of those things where I'm like, this could be better if Tails is already here. This could be better if Robotnik had more of his machines. I wouldn't mind being on Mobius right now. So, like, it's not disappointing, but I definitely feel like the film does lose a little something when it cuts that much away.
Yeah. That's understandable. That's understandable.
Here's one I think is a bit more straightforward. Do you think Sonic's constant use of pop culture references were distracting? Or do you think it was a good idea to lean into that kind of humor?
I think for the target audience, it worked. It's weird because I am no longer the target audience, and so I can't tell you if it resonates with the people it's supposed to be resonating with. I think that for me, it was fine because it makes sense that Sonic is like a 12, 13-year-old hyperactive boy with ADHD, essentially, and super speed. So I think it played to his character quite well. I think James Marsden was kind of the perfect counterpoint to do that because he was funny, but he was also like, he played the straight man to like for Sonic to bounce off of more often than not, and I think that the dynamic worked well. So I didn't find it too overbearing. I enjoyed it.
I didn't hate it, but I do feel, and there's another critic I came across today, Cosmonaut, I think is what his name is, on YouTube, and he compared this to Harley Quinn, and both of them have the same kind of humor that Deadpool has, where it's very quick, fast-paced, pop culture referential, and he didn't hate it, but his comment was more that, is this the kind of stuff we're going to be getting more of now because Deadpool proved it was successful?
Interesting. Ooh, that's an interesting commentary.
I thought so too, and I'm thinking to myself, as much as I like this, eventually this is going to be an old and worn out gimmick.
Yeah, I don't think it is for every character. I think Deadpool and Harley Quinn, their characters were designed to be this way. So, which is why they work.
I would argue Deadpool was designed this way, and Harley Quinn was redesigned to be that way. She didn't start that way.
Nope, that is I concede that point. Harley Quinn was redesigned to fit that, definitely. But I still think it works for her personality and for what Margot Robbie is doing in the DCEU. I think it works.
Mm-hmm.
For Sonic, again, the target audience being who they are, these memeing little bastards, I think it works. I think it works for Sonic. I don't think you can do every character like this, and I think it will be very apparent when you have a character try to be that it doesn't fit. I think that will be very apparent. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
if it's overused, it will be like ugh. But I think if you keep it to the characters who can do it, I think we might just see more characters who are like that, and that just kind of might be a subsect of like superheroes, or just like the fanciful, like it might be a subsect of what you see in genres like this, where you have the hyperactive, self-referential, fourth wall tapping character that's just having a ball and encouraging the audience to have a ball with them.
Speaking of fourth wall breaks, I do have a question. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on the product placement in this peppered throughout this film?
Oh boy,
that might have been a bit much for me. That might have been a bit much for me.
It was a bit much. It was a bit much. If it's to the point where I noticed the product placement in the first viewing, it's a little much. Because usually I'm super in depth to like what the movie's trying to do, and I'm not like really paying attention to it. But I mean, to be fair, if you have a character who can pull the damn, like, who can pull the Quicksilver scene in X-Men Days of Future Past just out of his ass on a whim, you're gonna see logos more clearly. But
well, it's not even that,
a lot
though.
of logos in these shots.
My eyes rolled out of my head the minute they said the line, when you're here, your family, in reference to Olive Garden. It's like, no, fucker, this isn't a commercial. It's a fucking movie. You keep that shit in your pants.
How much did Olive Garden shell out to get that gift card in there?
They probably paid for the fucking redesign is what it was.
Man.
They're like, hey, listen, we'll sponsor your movie, but you got to put this in there.
I tell you what, though, the Olive Garden bit worked for me personally because they only did it twice. It was a joke early on and then a joke at the very end, just to kind of call back to the original joke, which was fun for me. But also, it spoke to that small town feeling where you're from a town so small that the Olive Garden is the nice restaurant, or that the Chili's is the place that you go for big celebrations. So like it was cool in the fact that showcased how small of a town Green Hill was. That's what I liked about it. The product placement was definitely in your face, but the choice of it being Olive Garden said something a little deeper, and I was just like, okay, I get what you're trying to do while also selling me on Olive Garden, but I see what you're doing.
Yeah. I don't know. For me personally, it's just a personal taste, I think. But for me, it's like when I can notice it that much, and there was Zillow, there was Amazon. It's like, okay, guys, I get it. You have sponsors. Maybe just show them and don't say the names. Like when Spider-Man has a search engine for Bane. Like, I don't have anyone say Bane. It's just there. I know what it is, and you don't need to go any further than that. Like Amazon boxes, I see those. We're good. I don't need you to say Amazon.
like you said, they had to pay for that reshoot, dog. They had to pay for the redesign.
I know, that's why it hurts.
Oh, damn. See, this is what you get when you bitch on social media. You get more product placements.
I'm hoping Sonic... I'm going to call it Sonic Adventure 2, but no, Sonic the Movie 2. I'm hoping that takes place more in like the other world, so we have less product placement. That would be a dream. That'd be great.
It'll be interesting. I'm not sure how much they can do it if they want to keep the human element, but I would definitely want to see more of the other worlds. Definitely.
Bah, humans are overrated. Just ask Bender. Gotta kill all humans. Anyway. Speaking of killing all humans, let's talk about Robotnik / Jim Carrey. What are your thoughts on him?
It was like going back and watching The Mask for the first time. Only instead of the hero, he plays the smarmy fucking villain. It's like watching The Grinch with the energy of The Mask. And it's just there's no green on him. It's just Jim Carrey with a silly ass mustache. I had a fun time with it. It was there were parts of it that were just mean. Like it was hilarious, but it was mean, and I feel like in some parts they had it go too hard to acknowledge that he is the villain. But I think it was as zany and as ridiculous as I wanted Robotnik to be. So overall, I liked it.
So fun fact for you, Ryan. I grew up in a household where Jim Carrey was not anyone's really favorite. The folks didn't really care for him as an actor, so they didn't really go out to see his movies or rent them or anything. So I, as a kid, never really saw him myself. I just never really grew into the actor. Wow. I just kind of thought, yeah, never really was my thing. So I've only seen him in a couple of things, and never really was the biggest fan. Not hated, but just never really latched on like everyone else did.
Interesting.
So I didn't have the nostalgia factor wowing me with his performance here. So I will say that I don't think it's a bad performance. I think it's fun and energetic, but I will say there are certain points where it's like, okay, it might be a little too like chaotic and dancey for a mad scientist. A little bit.
Yeah, if like this is vintage Jim Carrey. This is Ace Ventura Jim Carrey. This is the Mask Jim Carrey. Yeah, so like if you're not a Jim Carrey fan, it might be a little much. Like honestly, it feels like a return to form for his earlier stuff, and that was also hitting me in the nostalgia feels real hard. So I was having a blast every time he was on screen, but. Yeah, I can like there are others. There are those that exist that are not like me, who didn't grow up who didn't grow up choreographing the entire dance of Cuban Pete from The Mask in his living room when he was like 5 years old. So yeah.
Sounds adorable.
It might be a little too much for people that aren't Jim Carrey fans, but For those of you like me, we were right there. We were on the same page, guys.
I will say I do want to go back and check out some of his older stuff because it sounds like there was actually some fun stuff that I missed out on.
If you haven't seen The Mask, you need to go see The Mask.
It is on my list.
You gotta see I will say The Mask. You should see The Mask first. You should see The Mask first, and then after that. I would recommend checking out Liar Liar, because that's hilarious to me. I wasn't the hugest Ace Ventura fan, but my two go-to Jim Carrey movies are The Mask and Liar Liar.
I was like, I've seen clips of Ace Ventura, and it didn't really grab me, but I do think Mask looks interesting, and I don't know enough about Liar Liar to say otherwise, so...
Do you want me to give you the premise?
Yeah, go ahead. Drop it on me.
So in Liar Liar, Jim Carrey plays a lawyer who is cursed, quote unquote cursed, by his son's birthday wish that he is not allowed to lie for one whole day. And so the day follows, and every time he goes to say a lie, he says the truth in a ridiculously comic fashion, and it's him fighting against that while trying to win a court case.
That sounds like it could be entertaining, actually.
It's the goofiest shit. If you're looking for less off the wall Jim Carrey, go Liar Liar first. He definitely is off the wall, but it's not a green rubber mask and yellow zoot suit off the wall.
Well, to be fair, though, a mask is designed to be a Looney Tune, basically, but with murder.
Yes.
So I get that.
Yes.
All right, I'll definitely have those on my list. It's a long list of stuff I got to get to, but it's on my list.
God, I have to rewatch The Mask. Oh my God.
Tune in next
I've seen
season
that
for
forever.
The Mask. Okay, so another video game movie came out, and so I guess we should probably bring this up real quick. This is the highest rated video game movie on Rotten Tomatoes right now. It actually beat out
Ooh.
Pokemon in terms of its day one or opening weekend sales and its Rotten Tomato scores. Ryan, how do you think this film compares to Pokemon?
It beat Detective
Which was the
Pikachu?
former top of both those. Yeah. Well, Pikachu opened with 54 million. This opened with the weekend of 70 million.
Damn.
And the box office, or the Rotten Tomato score, I think it's a little bit higher than Pokemon. I think it's like 69 to 64, something like that.
Ooh. Okay. I think
Here's my thought as to why this is the case.
man, you've got me thinking. Go ahead, please. I gotta get my thoughts in order.
And maybe you can argue with me if you want this one. I think Sonic does this because it's a more focused film. It might not have the most like in-depth, amazing story compared to Pokemon, and to be fair, Pokemon's story wasn't all that crazy either. But Pokemon's world was a deep dive into the Pokemon world. You were surrounded by CGI characters. You were surrounded by this other culture. Whereas in this film, it's the exact opposite approach, where they take a character from another dimension and put him here in our world. Something familiar, something a little more digestible. I think Sonic is more easy for younger kids to get into, and I think it's just an easier get and understand for those kids. Whereas Pokemon, unless you grew up with it 100%, it's gonna feel a little weird jumping into that world where everything is just completely covered in Pokemon shit.
I think you've got it. I think what kind of hampers Detective Pikachu is the fact that it leans on prior understanding more than Sonic. It doesn't lean too much on it, because if you're just passing familiar with Pokemon, you can still be into it, and you can notice various Pokemon, and that's cool. Like it wasn't to the point where you shouldn't watch this movie if you haven't played Pokemon. It didn't commit that sin, thank goodness. But I think you're right. By having this movie be the only thing out of place is Sonic. So that's the only thing you focus on. And then you gave Sonic a nice character arc because you had him actually dealing with the fact that he's been alone for 10 years and that he's kind of got some mental health issues in regards to like making up, like kind of stalking this fucking town for 10 years. So I think you've got it. Honestly, I think you're right in the fact that while they attempt to do something a little deeper with Detective Pikachu, and it's by no means a bad movie, I loved that movie. It was well done. I think this movie is more focused. It's easier to digest, both for younger viewers and for just people who came wanting to see a Sonic movie. You didn't have a whole bunch of things to keep track of, or a whole bunch of little shit to catch on to, but you could catch the echidnas. You could have fun when Sonic gets hit and loses all of his rings. You can get the level complete melody when he plays the drums. That's fun, and it doesn't detract as much as seeing a random Aplom in Detective Pikachu and be like, oh, I know that one. So yeah, I get what you're saying there. I think you got it.
Yep. Yeah, I thought about that as to why the success was so hard, so heavy hitting for Sonic. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense given all the controversy, but then maybe that also fed into it. It had more headlines going into the film, whereas Pokemon may not have had them. I don't remember the build up to Pokemon enough to know for sure, but
Right.
there's
Also, you had more people. You had more people paying attention to it with the headlines, but also you had more people that were like, "Well, if they're gonna spend all this money to reshoot it, I at least need to watch it." Like I was, so I think the initial controversy ended up doing better for it in the long run. And I think Jim Carrey actually said something along those lines in like one of the press interviews that he did for it when he was asked about it. He's like, yeah, I think it actually worked out well for us.
Well, and I think it also helps that Jim Carrey was there. Aside from Ryan Reynolds, who was just a voice for 90% of the movie, there wasn't a lot of star power behind Pokemon compared to Sonic, which is funny because Sonic really only has one mega star in there, and it's just Jim Carrey. And sure, James Marsden is a big deal, but not nearly as big a deal. So, I don't know. Yeah.
Also, they had Neil McDonough in there for like 3 minutes, and I don't know why. Like, I love Neil McDonough. If you're gonna have Neil McDonough in your film, you should use him more. He was in there for one scene, just to get chewed up by Jim Carrey, and then he was never seen again.
Mm-hmm. What was that? Do you think the human characters are additive to the movie, or do you think they pull away from the main thrust of the film?
I think they add to it. Honestly, I think Sonic's story is the focus, and I think the movie correctly focuses on Sonic's desire to not be alone, and Sonic's plight, and eventually, he really needs to leave because people are going to chase him, but he also doesn't want to leave because he has no friends, and he might be able to find friends here. You have that working into the story with Donut Lord just wanting to go and prove something in the big city, but realizing that the people here need him, and he this is really his home. I think that story really it complemented Sonic's. It didn't take the focus off of it, but I think it complemented it well. And of course, Robotnik is just Robotnik. I love seeing Jim Carrey dance around all day. That's not going to take away from the movie, at least for me. So I think in this story, the humans were additive to the story and not distracting.
Okay. Final question, and then if there's anything else I didn't cover, you can bring it up. Do you think the sequel hooks get you more excited for the next movie? Or are you done by the end of this movie, and why or why not?
I'm ready. Sonic and Tails. I'm ready for Sonic 2. I'm ready. I just because I had so much fun. I did have a lot of fun with this. This wasn't a super deep film, but it was something that I enjoyed watching. And when you have Jim Carrey donning the classic Eggman Robotnik look, stranded on a mushroom island, he's like...
His voice also got more Robotnik, too, which I liked.
Yeah. He was stranded on an alien planet for 3 months at that point. I'm like, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. I'm ready. I'm ready for this. Yeah, he's fucking nuts. I love this. Here we go. But also you get Tails... And if you get Tails, then Knuckles isn't far away. And if you go Knuckles, then you gotta have Metal Sonic, or you gotta have Shadow, and just
I'm honestly really excited for the update to Metal Sonic. That'll be fun.
Metal Sonic will be very interesting. They've already played with the idea of the real boss fight starts when you have somebody that can keep up with Sonic at his speed. So that's when the real fight starts. So the inevitable workup to Metal Sonic. I probably don't think we're gonna see Shadow, but Metal Sonic is definitely a thing that we can see. And I'm excited for Tails. I'm excited for Knuckles. They have places to go if the movie gains enough traction. So it's they've paced themselves. They've proven they can actually do the designs well, so I am ready to see more from these guys.
I think Metal Sonic will definitely be the highlight of a future film. It'll probably be either teased in the next one or the main thrust of 3, if they ever get that far. So I'm excited to see how it goes. Honestly, though, if they could get to Blaze the Cat and Charming the Bee, I'm down. Let's do it.
Blaze the Cat. Oh my god.
As a fun aside, I've actually been picking up the IDW Sonic comics. They were on sale on Comixology. I'm like, you know what? I could go for some Sonic comics. Let me check them out. And they're not bad. They actually have some fun stuff going on. They're a little straightforward compared to what they used to have for the Archie comics way back in the day. But it was just kind of nice seeing all the characters, Blaze and Silver and all of them just doing their dumb bullshit, and Robotnik. The storyline starts with Robotnik being like having amnesia and like, I don't know who Robotnik is. I'm just Mr. Tinker and I build things to help people. And then he gets kidnapped by some other dudes who then rejog his memory, and he's like, oh shit, why am I dressed like a fucking prick? Let me go ahead and become a bad guy again. It's like, this is great. This is cheesy bullshit I love. Yeah, so let's hit the mail call. If you want to comment on our show, there's comments down below. You can also go to Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook. We do a monthly Wazcast podcast, which I think we still need to figure out when we're going to schedule those, recording-wise, because, we're waiting on, subscribers to jump in and be like, hey, yeah, I'll donate to get this shit going. But while we're waiting for that, you do have behind-the-scenes pre-roll episodes and exclusive episodes every month. Good stuff there. And if you want to email us for your questions, concerns, or ask us, or you can tell us what stuff you really want from our channel, you can email us at...
they can email us at Sega! Excuse me. That's evacstation@gmail.com.
Fun fact, the Sega logo you see at the beginning of this movie takes up 1/8 of the runtime.
Oh man, please! Please!
Let's go ahead and close out with the final thoughts. We rank it from platinum, shit, and all the colors in between. This is a weird one to rank because I'm kind of in a few different spots for this one. So, Ryan, I'll let you take the floor first.
Goodness.
Unless you're as confused as I am.
I can do my thing where I talk about my general thoughts of it and then stumble into a final ranking like I do every week. I think I had a lot of fun with this movie. I think it is not attempting to be too deep. It does have a few few salient moments in it with the characters, but for the most part, it's an entertaining romp for kids with a lot of fast-paced humor and ridiculousness of a supersonic 12-year-old that has the power to break the space-time continuum by going so fast. And the bouncing off of the characters around him. I give shout-outs and major credit to a design team that had to work their asses off in order to give us the proper design. Shitty executives aside, the final product that they came out with was wonderful, and the extra work that they put in to put that product out is deserving of all the praise I can give them. Overall of the movie, as I would say, it's pure nostalgia. For folks our age, you go to this movie to get the nostalgia fix. There's not a whole bunch more than that. It's nostalgia and entertainment. So I'm going to give it a bronze. It's not something you have to see, but if you decide to see it because you want your nostalgia fix, you're not going to be disappointed. You're going to have a fun time with it.
So I will also say bronze, and I'm going to say right now, I hate giving bronze out as much as I do sometimes because I feel like so many movies just don't hit a high enough high or a low enough low to break out of this bronze section. But
that's why we have these middle sections.
I know, but I feel like it's such a cop out whenever I say it all the time. But hear me out. First off, unless you are a child or a Sonic fan, there is nothing for you here. Yeah. I don't think you're going to get anything out of it. I know critics who I respect who don't like this, and they are very much Mario people. They are very much not Sonic people. And it's like, okay, well, I know you were going to hate it to start with because this has just never been your jam. But if you're not a Sonic fan at all or predisposed to like this kid stuff, you're not in. You're out. You're done. And It's hard for me to want to give it a bronze even, just with the production stuff in the background. Yes, the final result is really good, but I don't want to reward something that made a mistake and then had to clean up its own mistake. I think it's a little weird to do that, but I can't really give it lower because the final result is passable. It's very, very fun, and I am excited to see where it goes, because the stuff they did right, it's good. There's some good stuff that is worth talking about here, and I just am looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. And maybe I'm biased because I am going to go and play Sonic Mania when we're done with this. I don't know. But the point is, this is something that it's fun, but not going to be for everybody, for sure. So thank you.
I love that we arrived at the same conclusion from like slightly opposite angles.
Yeah. I think that's why I like this show the way it is just that I like that we can approach something from different angles and still kind of come to a same conclusion almost. It's just, yeah, it's very unique. A little bit. But anyway, thank you everybody for listening for the show. I would love to do more new movies this year, or every year even. But obviously that costs money. So if you want us to do more new releases throughout the years as we do this show, please donate to the show. On patreon.com/RecessCastProductions. The more you donate, the more we can afford to do the newest releases and talk about the fun new shiny things, which is always good. Yeah, that's all I have for this week. Next week, you'll be listening to... next week, you're going to listen to Final Fantasy Advent Children. Ryan is so excited for Final Fantasy. It's his favorite game.
I'm so excited, guys.
You can hear it in his voice.
You gotta listen next week to hear what I think about this movie.
Is it really even a movie? Anyway, thank you for listening. We'll see you after the credits.
Bye.